Alright guys, a little bit of a different video this week. I'm going to take you on a POV adventure of Sean and I driving out to the lake that we camped in last week's video. We're going to encounter snow, rain, mud, flooded rivers, and even some rocks along the way. So this is going to be a raw, uncut POV experience of us hitting some trails in the backcountry of British Columbia during some nasty, unpredictable weather.
Well, it's only 4 degrees here. There's potential it could be snowing on the path.
Yeah, I was trying to remember how much elevation there is up there.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what it is, but I mean, it does pull up quite a bit.
I'm not going to leave you guys hanging. I'll narrate the drive the whole way. This isn't going to just be my supercharged Hemi Jeep making a bunch of noise the whole time. The lake we're heading to is called Chehalis Lake. It's the one that Sean and I go to every February to just hang out and relax and shoot a fun video. We usually get some unexpected weather. In the past, we've had a atmospheric river that's wiped out the trail and had a huge washout along the way. One year we woke up to 2.5 feet of snow in the morning, which made for quite the adventure getting out. This year we're, I think, in for a lot of rain, but as we climb a little bit of elevation, we're starting to see some more snow. There's quite a bit of snow in this section. Now along the way we'll make a couple stops. There's a beach that Sean and I want to go check out. And it has a bit of a rocky entrance to get down to it, so we have to do a bit of rock crawling, which I haven't really done too much in the Gladiator since I think Moab was the last time I hit some trails. So we're going to get a chance to test out some of the modifications we've made over the last few months. That is slippery.
Are you still in 2-wheel drive?
Yeah, I'm going to switch to 4 right here. The combination of melting snow and mud is making this really slick.
Just going up from here, so.
Now, the thing is, my Gladiator has aftermarket axles, so I have to go out and lock the hubs before I can put it into 4-wheel drive. And this is a pretty good spot to do it, with a nice little view off of the river beside us. But it's just a quick flick of the hubs, and then I can engage 4-wheel drive from inside the truck. There's times that Sean and I have come up here and this is like 3 feet of snow. We can barely get across the bridge. It looks like there's a nice little camping spot down next to the river. I'm going to mark that one on my Onyx off-road app so that we can maybe use that in the future, or I can suggest it to somebody who is looking for a quick camping spot. A lot of these spots get used quite heavily when the weather's nicer, but when the snow comes and there's a lot of snow, nobody comes up into these locations. So some of these busier camping spots become locked and loaded. So some of these busier camping spots become epic little places to get to when you have to spend all day in the snow. Yeah, you can see as we make the first fork up the trail, the snow is picking up. We're not very high in elevation, but it doesn't take much in February for the snow to start collecting. It must have snowed up here fairly recently because we've been getting a lot of rain and it's been fairly warm. Now, as I just mentioned, I'm using Onyx off-road. I'm not using this to plan a trail out this time like I usually do. We have a fairly good idea where the lake is, but I am tracking and recording this, so I just have it in my Onyx. I don't have a track for where we're going at Chehalis Lake, and it lets me add points of interest along the way, and I can save things for the future or to share with my friends who may be looking for a trail or a campsite that they want to get to. You can really hear the rain picking up. It is starting to come down, and this is a bit of a forecast for what we're in for the rest of the day. If you go check out my camping video from last week at the lake, it rained the entire time. It was downpouring. It never let up, well, until the next morning, and it definitely put some of our gear to the test. So go check that video out, because this is going to be an off-roading video and not a camping or gear video. Now the trucks that Sean and I have are way overkill for this type of trip. There's not really any necessary serious off-roading to get to this camp spot. But we are going to take a little detour, as I mentioned, and hit some rocks along the way, which I think any Jeep with 35s should do fine. I've brought my other Jeeps down this trail that we're going to get to, but it's just a nice little spot to test out how the suspension's doing and get a better feel for my Gladiator. I haven't had a chance to do a lot of serious off-roading in it, and we've lifted it up quite high, and it's definitely a different experience. It's taller than my other Jeeps. It's more top heavy with the rooftop tent up high on the cap that we have, and I want to get more familiar with how much I can lean it over sideways before it wants to flip, and just what's going to hang it up and how capable it is with traction. But anyways, back to the trail. We're just going to keep trekking. This trail is going to take us, I think, about 58 kilometers or so into the mountains to the lake. So this is going to be a bit of a drive, and I'm going to take you along the whole way and keep on narrating. If you guys like this kind of video, let me know. I was thinking of doing these every now and then when I go out, and just giving you guys an experience of what we go through in a day to get somewhere to go camping to make a video for you guys. Now we're heading downhill here. You can see I let Sean have quite a bit of a lead. I'm not sure what the conditions are, and I've encountered ice and really hard compact snow along this little section, and as you see, we've got to make a sharp turn at the end, otherwise you're going to end up in a river. And I wanted a bit of space so that if I started sliding, he had time to get out of the way. But absolutely beautiful river. We're going to cross a few of these along the way today, and it is absolutely roaring with all the recent rainfall, which is also probably starting to melt some of the snow and carry some of that water down into the rivers. We're fairly close to the lake. It's just on our right hand side. We're going to make our way down to it fairly soon, but you can see the snow really picking up. And then we've got a gate off to the right. I'm not sure where that goes, but something we run into a lot here in BC is gates. This trail, this off-road track that we're doing, we shouldn't run into any problems blocking us from where we're getting to. For those of you wondering, the truck, why it's making all that noise, this is a America's Most Wanted 4x4 converted Jeep, and I have a supercharged Hemi out of a Dodge Demon in here, so we've got about 840 horsepower. It's overkill, it's not necessary, and it burns way more fuel than I need to for these kind of trips, but it sure is a lot of fun, and I really enjoy driving this truck. But all that extra power really doesn't make a difference out here, other than it's more fun. I'm also trying to formulate my long-term opinion of the suspension setup that I have in here. The truck is running on some Elka 3-inch shocks that I've had since we finished the build almost 2 years ago. They have been pretty good, but I'm kind of thinking about maybe trying something different because I'd like to get a side-by-side comparison in the same vehicle. I have Falcon shocks on my Wrangler, which have also been pretty good, but I think the Elkas are more tunable. They have a dual dampening rate tuning on them, so you can tune them for slow speed and high speed bumps, which definitely makes a difference on some of these trails because out of nowhere you'll be hitting a pothole and really putting your suspension to the test. As for control arms and the rest of the suspension, it's all a metal cloak, and then I just recently added a PSC Hydro Assist steering kit. That's the America's Most Wanted 4x4 steering conversion that they have, and we've got the Steer Smarts front tie rod and on there as well. Definitely adding the Hydro Assist was a long needed upgrade for my truck. I'm running 40-inch tires, and I could barely turn the wheel in a parking lot without the Hydro Assist, but now that I have it, it's awesome. You can one finger turn from a stop on pavement, whether you're aired down or not, and it's definitely going to make a difference a little bit later when I have to navigate through some rocks at a slow speed. But for now, the suspension's been holding up pretty good. But if you guys have some suggestions on shocks I could maybe try that aren't...
Yeah, this is some wet, slick stuff.
That aren't Elkas and aren't Falcons, because those are the two that I've tried so far, leave them down in the comments below and maybe I'll check them out. One of the shocks that I've been looking at are the new ones from Metal Cloak. They have the Black Series shocks. which looked pretty cool. But I've also had my eye on the Bilstein 8100, I believe is the model number for them, where they actually have a true bypass, sort of like a coilover setup. So there's a secondary bypass on the shock, so that if you bottom out the shock on the first cylinder, then it has an extra cylinder that has more pressure to move through it, and so it's going to continue to absorb the bump rather than just completely bottom out your suspension. And we do a lot of driving on these back roads, these bumpy forestry service roads, fire access roads. It's really like bombing through the desert, but
We'll take a look at what the trail down
snowier and wetter. Try not to cut off Sean as he's talking while I narrate to you guys, but he's just talking about pulling down to the beach and going to check and see how that is.
Yeah, I was not expecting this much snow up here. Holy moly.
This will be the first of 2 beaches we go to. The second beach is the one that requires the rock crawling, and it's actually kind of a neat beach because it's a lake, but it has a bunch of rocks with fossils in them, which I guess is why they call the beach Fossil Beach. And I guess at some point the ocean actually flowed into that lake because it's right at sea level, and so there was marine life in there, and the fossils formed, and then the lake got cut off from the ocean, and now there's no sea life. It's just a freshwater lake. But how about this? How about this snow, guys? This is super awesome. I wish it was snowing instead of raining, because it would just enhance the experience a little bit more, but I'll take it, and I never pass up an opportunity to do a little snow wheeling. It's probably my favorite thing to do in the Jeeps, is just go and hit the trails with some fresh snow, or even in this case, wet, muddy, old snow. It's a lot of fun. And we're going to get into quite a bit more snow here a little later in the video. And I know this is going to be a bit of a long video for you guys, but I really just wanted to show you guys what goes into getting to some of these camp places that we go to and make videos. Sean does an amazing job on his channel, if you haven't seen it, The Story Till Now, of documenting cinematically the journey and the different challenges and the story along the way. So go check out his videos as well, but I really wanted to do something more, I don't want to say authentic, but just show you guys the experience a little bit closer. The POV driving, the challenges along the way, and just the fun that I'm having. And I did one of these videos a couple of months ago, and I didn't narrate it, and the most common comment and feedback that I got in the video was to narrate all along the way. So here we are. I got my mic, and I'm following along with you guys, sharing my thoughts as we drive along. Yeah, you can see Sean, he's weaving off to the side. We're trying to avoid the biggest of the biggest potholes. The rain on these trails just really starts to accumulate the potholes over time, people driving through them, digging them out. And these get graded every now and then, but some of them are monsters, even for our trucks, and it's always best to sidestep them where you can. But visibility is absolutely terrible. We're up in the clouds in the mountains, so I don't think Sean's gonna break out the drone. I've actually stopped bringing a drone with me when I go out. I had way too many incidents crashing into trees. I'm not as skilled a pilot as some of the others out there making YouTube videos, and to be honest, it really wasn't giving the kind of experience that I wanted to portray in my videos. I prefer to give you guys more of my view and not from a drone. But look at this. This is all washed out. So at some point this was sliding down the side of the hill, probably washed out the trail. There's some boulders on the side there. I think we passed a sign a minute ago that said don't stop, be careful of the washouts. And we just crossed another river, and as we turn right here, this was the site of a major washout a few years ago. Right where Sean is now up ahead of me, that whole piece had completely slid off the side of the mountain. And it took them a while to fix that, but you could kind of sneak around, but it was undercut and a little sketchy. It's in a video that I have a few years ago. I'll see if I can maybe put it up in the corner, but often what happens is we get these forest fires that come through here, and they wipe out all the trees and the underbrush, and that's what's holding the slopes together. And then we get these massive rainstorms throughout the fall and the winter, and the water accumulates and gets underneath everything and just washes things down the side of the slopes. Washouts are a very, very common occurrence, and it's certainly something that concerns me a little bit. Not on this trip, but on some other trips that I've been on where it's torrentially downpouring and we're way out somewhere. If one of those hillsides washes out and comes down the side, it's almost going to be impossible to get out of there. We're going to need to call somebody like Matt's Offer Recovery, and he probably couldn't even get us out. We'll have to call someone like Heavy D Sparks and get his Blackhawk helicopter to pull the Jeeps out of some of these remote locations. But all jokes aside, it can be a real situation if we get stuck out in the remote area and we get a washout that traps us out there. But thankfully we carry GPS communicators with us. I carry a Garmin InReach, and Sean has Starlink. I was actually thinking of getting Starlink myself, just so I can stay in touch when I'm on the road, but it's a nice emergency communication tool. And I'm sure if we put some posts out on Instagram and YouTube and we were stuck, a bunch of you guys would come help us get out. Well, that's my theory anyways. Alright, so we just forked off the road here a second ago. We're heading down to the lake. There's actually a lake to our right that you can't see. It's unfortunate that it's foggy because all around us are mountains that would be covered in snow this time of year. So it's really, really pretty coming down this road. Alright, so we stopped here for a second, see what Sean wants to do. He probably wants to set up a camera or something like that. Nope, I was wrong. He's just checking things out. So there's a couple, well, not a couple, but there's a river that runs down across the trail, and because the trail zigzags back and forth, we're going to have to cross it a few times. So I think that's what Sean was actually stopping at here, just to check out the river. I'll show you guys this a little bit closer here in a minute as we loop back and go through it one more time, at least one more time. But we're definitely making a little bit less ground. This is super bumpy, and we're having to drive a little bit slower. These kinds of trails are what kills my fuel economy. When we're driving a little faster, 50, 60...
I'm going to drive across and set up a camera and come back.
Oh, Sean's going to go set up camera. But
Copy.
when we're driving a little faster, 50, 60 kilometers an hour, I probably get about 7 or 8 miles to the gallon. I know you guys are always asking me my fuel economy. When we're driving slow like this, I get really bad fuel economy. But we're not going to spend a lot of time driving slow today. So Sean's just going to
Drop my GoPro the same.
go across, and I'm going to follow him across, and I'm going to drop a camera, and I'm going to get a shot of us driving through this little river here in a second. And that's basically how it's done. If you want to get shots driving through rivers, you gotta drive through them once, put a camera down, drive back through them, jump out in the rain, grab your camera again, and hopefully you got the right shot and no raindrops landing on the lens or anything like that. So looking around at what we can see, there's a lot of dead trees. You can see them kind of popping up through the fog. It's probably because at some point there was a fire that ripped through here and killed all the trees. British Columbia has a lot of forest fires, and it's not uncommon to see entire forests that we travel through completely wiped out and just the bare stumps of the trees still standing there. So as I mentioned before, this is a switchback route. So we're going to circle back and drive through that little river crossing again. But this next one is a little bit bigger. can see through the fog a little bit more here. Some of the trees just standing with no leaves or pine needles or anything like that on them. I think Sean is going to want to get a shot driving through this, or no, he's just going to drive through it real fast. And I'll do the same, but look at the waterfall just barreling down on the right-hand side. You can see the map on my right and the switchback, but look at that, just awesome. Get another shot of this coming back up, because this is an in and out trail where we're going down to check out the lake right now, and we're just going to pop down to the lake, pop back up to that main trail, and then we're going to go to the other trail with some rock crawling on it that's going to take us down to that fossil beach. This is what it's like in the winter in British Columbia. Rain and clouds and fog and in the mountains. I don't think I'd trade it for too much, but you definitely have to enjoy this kind of weather to go camping all year round out here. I mean, even in the summer. Last summer I booked 3 days to take the kids camping in the middle of August, thinking it would be a great time, and it rained the entire time. So it's just kind of how it goes. So what I was doing there just a second ago was I was putting it up into 4 high. I was using 4 low to get through those rivers, and it's just too many RPMs. If I'm in 4 low, I can't really travel fast enough, so ends up in 8th gear and ramping my RPMs up too high. Now the flip side is if you're in 4 low, you can avoid riding the brakes coming down here, which we're on a bit of a decline, and apparently my roof is leaking. I've never had a leak in my truck before, and it seems to only be happening when the nose is pointed downwards, the water's running in. So when I get home, I'm going to see if I can fix that. One fix for you guys with Jeeps that are leaking is get some silicone spray and put it all on the rubber trim and molding that's on your roof and doors. The molding absorbs the silicone spray and swells up a little bit. Even if it's just a tiny bit of swelling, it's going to help with the water, because it may just close up that little gap. And this has worked for me on my other Jeep in the past when I've had some water coming in. But since I've never had any water coming in my Gladiator, I've never really paid any attention to it or done any maintenance on it. But it's only when the nose is pointed down and it's pouring rain, so we'll have to get that sorted out when we get back home. And once again, we're going to switch back and cross this river another time. I think this is the last time that we have to cross it before we get down to the lake. And watching Sean goes through there, it looks like there's quite a bump coming through on the other side, but let's hang the camera out the window and you guys get a little bit more of a closer look at the river as we go through. These rocks are slippery and slick for sure. Now I am aired down to about 15 psi, which is why you constantly see the warning on my dash, and glad I noticed this raindrop on my camera, otherwise you guys would have a obscure view for the rest of this. So it shouldn't take us too much longer to get down to the lake. If you're wondering the name of the lake, it's called West Harrison, or Harrison Lake. We're on the west-hand side of Harrison Lake. It's a pretty common place for people to bring their Jeeps and off-road vehicles. There's a whole array of different trails that you can kind of discover along the way. We see a lot of lightly modified or even stock 4x4s and off-road vehicles up here. And you see side-by-sides, quads, dirt bikes, and everything else in between. So you do have to be careful navigating the roads. We're up here on a Friday morning, so it's pretty quiet. We're not going to run into anybody, but on the weekend it can be a bit of a busy place. But there's a lot of camping spots all along the way. But the one we're going to get to at Chehalis Lake is one of my favorites. Fortunately, it's super busy in the middle of the summer because it's pretty easy to get to, as I was just mentioning. It's in a fairly common off-road area and fairly close to Vancouver, so it gets pretty busy. But in the winter, there's not too many other crazies like us to go camping in the snow and pouring rain and cold. But if you got the gear for it, it certainly makes it a lot more fun. Alright, so we've just stopped for a second. We're actually crossing that river one more time, and just wanted to see if I could figure out why all this water is coming down into the cab of my truck. But just having a look at the trim to see if anything was pinched or squished, but didn't see anything that was looking out of place, so we're just gonna have to roll with this for the rest of the trip. And I think I'll maybe grab a towel at some point. Well, not think, I actually do grab a towel in a little bit, because the water was really starting to accumulate, and I've got some of my camera gear and other gear down below. Alright, let's get back in the truck and make some more progress. Yeah, look at that water coming in though. That's kind of annoying, guys. It's really, really pouring in. Alright, let's get back in 4 low. It's my preferred off-road option for anything that we have to crawl over. Just makes things easier and gives me a bit more control over the Jeep and isn't putting as much stress on the drivetrain. Oh yeah, I'm gonna also undo my sway bar. Now, this Jeep didn't start out as a Rubicon, so I don't have an automatic unlocking sway bar. It's actually a Mojave, which didn't have this feature at all. But the guys over at Epic Adventure Outfitters sourced me a Rubicon sway bar. But since I don't have the electrical system in here, we put this manual disconnect on here. It's called the Evo No Limit Disconnect. You just give it a few turns on that knob, and it's going to do the same thing that the electronic release does, and it's going to release my sway bar and give me way more articulation in the front end if I'm going over anything that needs more articulation, which effectively gives you better traction crawling over rocks. Okay, we're going to drop in here and we're going to hit some of these rocks. So I brought my Jeep down here before, not this Jeep, one of my other Jeeps. And it's a fun little trail. Mostly the entrance where we drop in is the most difficult, kind of sketchy part, but our Jeeps on 40-inch tires should make quick work of it. But it's definitely going to be a little flexy, and it gets you a little off camber because you don't want to basically push your Jeep into the side, so you have to go a little higher on the left-hand side, which puts you more off camber and gives you some of those uncomfortable feelings in your stomach, which I'm about to get here in just a second. We'll just let Sean make his way through, get over the first few boulders, and then we'll bring our truck in here as well. You can see just how sideways he's getting right out of the gate. It's a balance of putting your left hand or driver's side tires up on those rocks and trying to stay off the edge on the right hand side because you don't want to smash up your doors. You can see his front tires are getting pretty twisted and the back tires are starting to articulate pretty good. Alright, let's work our way through. Now my truck is a little bit taller than Sean's and maybe a little bit more top heavy because my tent weighs a little bit more.
Do you mind waiting so I can get a shot of you coming down too?
And Sean wants to get shots of both the trucks, so.
Yeah, I was just readjusting as the water's pouring into my Jeep on my passenger side.
Never gonna pass up an opportunity to get some awesome shots from Sean's cameras, but the way I was sitting just a second ago, the water was just pouring in my passenger side. So we'll hang out here for a second, let Sean clear over the rocks, and then we'll work our way through. But you can see just over the trees, you can start to see the lake. It's peeking through the fog.
can start going.
Now, I haven't had a lot of seat time in my Gladiator off camber and rolling to the side like this, so I am not quite sure where the limits are. I've spent hundreds of hours behind the seats of my other Jeeps, and I'm very confident how far I can push them.
Are you able to maybe keep an eye on me? I'm not feeling very comfortable in this truck right now.
And as I just
I'll bring the drone and spot you.
And as I just mentioned to Sean, I wouldn't mind a second set of eyes. I'm sitting at about 22 degrees off camber right now, which, you know, it's usually not too bad, but this truck is tall. It's on 40s, and it's fairly top heavy.
Passenger a little bit.
So,
Your driver tire is going to come down.
so I'm trying to listen to Sean. You know, always listen to your spotter, but he's up there in his truck watching me and doesn't have the best
Sorry,
view
man,
on
I'm
things.
just really not feeling good about this.
And it's
Okay, hang on, I'll jump out.
and as you can hear there, it's definitely starting to push my comfort zone. I'm feeling really off camber, and I just don't know how far I can push the truck. So Sean's gonna get out and have another closer look, and we'll go from there. But I think I want to back up and slightly adjust my line. I think I'm a little too high on the driver's side, and it's pushed me a little more off camber than I need to be. So now that Sean's got a good view of the route that I need to take, I'm definitely trusting him. I trust Sean as a spotter, but I'm going to put more faith in him now. And there we go. We got right over it. Little bump, little bang, but we didn't tip the truck over, and it was a good day. Alright, let's make our way down to the beach and through the rest of this little side trail. Good little fun way to start the day off, although it's almost 1 o'clock, but starting our day off. And it'll be fun coming back out of here in a few minutes. Looks like we got a bit of water on the trail. Keep in mind, Sean is also running 40-inch tires, so when you see the tires get swallowed up by a puddle, it's pretty deep. As we come down, it looks like we're getting below the clouds a bit, and you can start to see some of the lake off to the distance in the right hand. All these trees around here look fairly new, so I don't know if these have been planted or these are naturally growing. Often these areas get logged and clear cut, and then they come in and replant, regrow and renew the trees every few decades. Not sure what this area is though, but these trees look planted. As we get a little bit lower, we're going to come up, and there's a big river on the side, the one that we've been crossing back and forth as we made our way down here, and it kind of comes up along the right hand side of the trail. This part of the trail gets a little bit narrow and bushy. Sean's not worried about scratching his truck up. He's got that awesome new wrap with all the Onyx off-road topography on there, which is super cool. I've got clear paint protection film on the side of my truck, which keeps it looking pretty factory and OEM like. I like the clean look that paint protection film provides. And it's done a really good job at keeping most of the scratches off. I don't have the entire body covered, but along the side panels and the doors, fenders, they're all covered. Truck's looking pretty good after a couple years of off-road and heading out on trails and into the bush. You can hear them dragging down the side of the truck as we go. So if you can get past the first few boulders, the rest of this is just a bit of a downhill climb to the lake. Nothing like the entrance section with those big rocks. There is a tight tree coming up though. You have to be careful with the taller vehicles like we have. And it leans you over towards the tree a little bit. So it's not so bad coming down with my truck because my awning's on my driver's side, but going back up I definitely had to put a little bit more effort into being careful. Didn't want to lean over and rip the awning off on a tree. A few more of those bushes dragging along the side of the truck. Now I don't have any protective film on the alu-cab contour canopy, so we'll see how its powder coating holds up through all these trips and adventures through the bush. And the rain has not stopped coming in the side of the truck. I've never seen this much water come in any of my Jeeps. So I'm going to have to really address this seal. You can see it just pouring in when I'm slanted forward with the nose down. But that's part of Jeeps. If you have a Jeep that doesn't leak, you just have a Jeep that hasn't started leaking yet. Thankfully it's not on my passenger side or I would be getting absolutely soaked. Starting to get real close now. You can see all the lake through the trees directly in front of us. Bunch of fallen trees. Look at all the stumps. Looks like they've fallen over in a windstorm or something. We get a lot of windstorms here on the coast as well, so that's another way that trees get destroyed and knocked over. It's definitely something that I think about when we're out camping in areas that have large trees all around us, is if there's a windstorm, I'm a little bit concerned about a tree falling on us. It's always nice to camp in a bit more of an open area around rivers or on the beach of a lake, and you don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. Gotta watch out for this big stump on the left. Don't want to take a mirror off on that. More trees dragging down the side of the truck as well. Just slowly crawling our way down. I think Sean has a drone in the air, so he's adjusting it between shots, which is slowing us down a little bit. But this is the tree here on the right that you want to be careful. You saw Sean's tent almost bang it, so you want to stay high on the left side, but then we run into the same problem as the entrance rocks where you start to climb up the side of the trail and then it really puts your Jeep off camber. I'm just keeping an eye on my side view mirror here as I go past, but no issues. Didn't whack it on the tree and didn't destroy anything. Yeah, all these trees look burnt. There must have been a wildfire come through here at some point. It's been a few years since I've come out here and down to this lake, and I can't remember what it was like last time, but I don't think it was fire burnt. But we're in no rush today, so we're just going to take our time heading down to the beach. And I'll show you guys around the beach, and then we'll climb back up this trail, get back on the main trail, and we're going to head up into the mountain pass that's going to have a whole bunch of snow that we're going to get to play in. And then on the other side of the pass, we're going to drop back down and arrive at the beautiful lake that we camped at. almost there. Last little stretch here. We're going to be pulling up onto the beach. It is a wet day. I don't think it stopped raining all day. Which is not that common. As much as we get a ton of rain out here in the west coast, it doesn't seem to stick around all day long, but this trip was just one of those torrential downpours. Reminds me of a trip I did just over a year ago, back in November 2023. We had Justin B. McBride up here. He came out with Sean and I, and we met up with the Ginger and Paul from Epic, and it rained the entire time. It never stopped raining. We couldn't get a fire going. Thankfully, Sean had his howl with us, and we were able to get around that for some warmth and get dry at night. Then we went and had a second night out where the Epic crew took off, and it was just the three of us, Justin, Sean, and I, and it poured. It was so wet and rainy out, you could breathe water, it felt like. And my tent was so damp inside. It wasn't wet, but just there was so much dampness in the air that just everything felt wet and sticky. That's definitely a huge positive to having a diesel heater with you, is when you get into these damp, wet camping nights, you hop in your tent and everything is bone dry. Even if you don't have the diesel heater cranked way up, you don't need it super hot in there, but just having the dry air circulating into the tent keeps that moisture out, and a little bit of heat keeps everything dry. So I'm definitely in favor of diesel heaters. They're a little bit of a pain to lug around, and you got to fill them up with diesel before you go. Bring another jerry can if it's for a few nights. But the trade-off to me seems worth it. Definitely now that I have a Gladiator with a cap on it. Can you lift your drone up just like an inch? Yeah, that's good. Had to get Sean to move his drone a little bit because I was driving underneath it and I didn't want to hit it on the top of my rooftop tent. But yeah, diesel heaters are worth bringing for sure in this kind of weather. I can deal with the cold, not so bad, but the dampness where we are, it's just everything is always damp feeling if you don't have a diesel heater in your tent to try it out. Here we are, we're pulling up into the beach. So we're gonna be able to drive right up on the beach here, which is awesome. And this is a lake, not the ocean. It's always cool to pull the Jeeps up onto a beach and get out and have a look around. Look at all of the driftwood that's pulled up on the beach. That's another thing that I like about the lake that we're going to tonight, that we're going to spend the night at. It's at the south end of the lake, which seems to collect all of the deadfall in the storms. So the beach is usually just littered with all kinds of deadfall trees. And if depending on how long they've been sitting out, they can make some really good firewood. Last time we were there, we found a really nice cedar log and we were able to cut up. And if you guys don't know about cedar, it has a really high thermal amount of energy in it. I'm not going to get too sciencey because I don't know enough, but cedar burns really hot. It burns fast, but it burns really hot. So in this kind of weather, in the cold and the damp, finding some cedar, and if it's even half dry, it'll burn really good, and it's a great type of wood to get your fire going. And then it'll turn into some nice hot coals. It'll dry some of your other damper wood out while it's going, and then you've got a nice bed of coals to throw your other logs on. Here we are, here on the beach. So this is Fossil Beach, and it's all covered in fossil rocks. It doesn't take long to look around and find a rock that has little mussel and clam fossils impregnated into it. I'll show you guys when we get out. Maybe we'll find one. They're all over the place though, so we should be able to find something. You can drive along here. I think you can camp on this beach. I've never camped on it, but it would be a cool spot to camp on for sure. But we're going to keep on trekking for the rest of the day and get to the lake that we want to get to camp at, because it's a beautiful spot at the mouth of the river in the south end of the lake. But let's hop out and have a look around. But before we do, we'll throw the hood up. Don't want to get my glasses all wet. see how this new rain jacket will do. I bought a bunch of cheap rain jackets off of Temu, under $50 per jacket, and I wanted to try a few out and see if any were worth it, and I'll let you guys know. I think I'll grab the Overland umbrella. Get a lot of comments about bringing an umbrella with me out off-roading and camping, but to be honest guys, in the rain it's so handy. You don't need to get your jacket all wet, and you can just pop it up if you need to go out of your shelter for a quick minute or hop out of the truck. And it's not super cold, so you can just wear a hoodie and it's fine. Yeah, I'm making this a thing. Overland umbrellas. Oh yeah, I grabbed a towel. I'm gonna put a towel here to try to control some of the moisture coming in. I've got all my camera gear and my laptop sitting on the floor there, so I want to try to soak up some of this water before it makes its way down onto the floor mat and gets everything soaked. We'll just dry things up real quick and hang this towel off the side of the seat. And that'll be our solution for today. Once again, thankfully, this is not on the driver's side because I would be soaked. Man, I've got like a river coming in my passenger side window or my door, yeah. No, I gotta spray the seals, I guess. It's only when I'm pointed downhill.
My drone is like drenched.
I bet it's pouring out here.
I can't believe we blew it through all those branches. Nuts.
So you get the shots.
Yeah.
Shouldn't wreck my sway bar. The Ginger says my rear sway bar end links are extended as far as possible. So what I'm looking at there are the end links on my sway bar. When my axle's at full droop, they're not quite long enough and they do have a risk of buckling over. So the Ginger said to be careful, and I'm just going to keep an eye on things. But I think I'm going to have to come up with a different solution, maybe an anti-rock or something like that in the near future. How about those trucks, guys? Trucks are looking awesome out here.
Out, which always makes things interesting. We got down to the lake. No snow or ice on the trail so far, really, so
Yeah, not too bad.
it's nice down here.
See how that pass goes.
We should go swimming.
Oh, you go swimming. I'll film you.
Yeah, it's not like the nicest beach day, but that's usually when we go to the beach here in British Columbia.
If it was nice, it'd be full of people.
What's your favorite type of rain? We don't ask what your favorite weather is in BC. Hey, what's your favorite kind of rain?
This is great. Out here camping in the rain. I mean,
You got an umbrella, you look like you're ready to go golfing or
it's
something.
the Overland umbrella.
Yeah, you need to mount that to your head, like on a hat.
Soon to be available at dirtyneighbors.com.
It is foggy out there.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna grab a snack and a Gatorade and
Sure.
Yeah.
At least it's not sideways rain.
Sideways rain's probably my least favorite.
Yeah, because even under the umbrella and the awnings, you
My
just
favorite
can't get
rain
out of
is
it.
just heavy rain. Like if it's gonna rain, just give it to me as worst as possible and flood everything, and then all the trails are more fun. And then if I gotta get wet, I gotta get wet. I might as well be having fun.
Well, yeah, like a nice heavy downpour, not freezing cold so that everything you touch, your hands are just like hurting all the time. This is a good temperature.
this
It's like
temperature is
5,
like
6
degrees.
degrees. Yeah. A little more rain would be totally fine. It's nice at night. You sleep in the rain. Just nice, calm downpour.
Yeah.
But yeah, if it's sideways, we can't really get out of it. And that's when it's the worst.
Well, I'm nice and dry because I got my TSTN Champion jacket available at tsdn.shop. Check them out.
Yeah, and if you want to support my channel, I've got some merch available for you guys at dirtyanddangerous.com. There's t-shirts, hoodies, hats, key tags, stickers, patches. Yeah, I appreciate it if you guys want to check it out and grab something. You can also find all the information on the Demonator build there. I have links to pretty much everything that I've installed on the Jeep. So if you guys are wondering what parts I'm using, I'm good. Thanks. Yeah, so Overland umbrella always beats out waterproof rain gear, but we haven't tested out the Alley Cab shadow awning yet, which we put on
back in January. It's Fossil Beach, right? This is... Yep. Where's all the fossils? There's fossils everywhere. So you get these fossils in all of these rocks. Is it uncommon to have fossils on a freshwater lake? Because this is not the ocean, this is a lake.
So this would have been part of the ocean however many millions of years ago.
Okay. Back in the day.
Yeah.
That makes sense. There's little fossils scattered all over the beach if you look hard enough.
Yeah, that's why there's apparently like sea otters or seals or something in this lake.
Oh.
So this is what I've been told. I've never actually seen one.
Well,
it's so weird that it's only this beach that has them.
Yeah, neat though.
You know what's even weirder is there's a trail up at the top of the trail we just came down.
Yeah.
That you can go up higher and like way above the main FSR level, and there's fossils up there too.
Wow.
So it was like we're way below what sea level was.
Yeah, that's crazy. I think Onyx said it was 7 meters above sea level here. If we're not that.
Sounds about right.
We're not that high up.
All right, we're gonna hop back in the trucks. Enough chit chat, and we're gonna make our way to that lake. I wish at the time when I was making this video, I knew that we're gonna get to play in some snow in a very short period of time. Quick little Onyx check. Actually says we're.
So I guess this lake is actually slightly below sea level.
Says we're minus 1 meter below sea level. Maybe that's true. I'll have to go double check that later. Maybe that's minus 1 meter from when we started out for the day. So we're gonna head back out of this lake the exact same way we came, as I was saying before. We're gonna have to retrace our steps up that trail. This time we're gonna keep an eye on that tree and make sure we don't rip our awning off, and see how those boulders go at the very exit, or what the entrance was on the way in. Just tiptoe our way over some of these fallen logs, or washed up logs, as we make our way out. The trail that we're going down, I'm not sure if it's been man-made or it used to be a riverbed, but it looks like there's a whole lot of crushed gravel and rock on it. It almost looks like somebody built it at some point for an access point down to this lake, but it's not the most accessible trail because of that entrance, so I'm not really sure how this trail started out. But it's definitely a fun little one to head down if you're in the area. And you get to check out the beach when you get to the bottom of it. But yeah, you can see it's all gravel, and it's almost like a double track going through here. Hard to say. Some of those trails that we come across in BC, some of them were made from mining exploration, some of them were made to make campsites, some of them were made for forestry, some of them were made by hunters and quads and side-by-sides. It's just hard to tell. So not everything is mapped on Onyx Off-Road, but I'm starting to see more and more stuff pop up on there. I think there's quite a few people around BC that are helping flesh out where some of these trails are and sharing them out for people to go check out themselves. Don't want to hit this log. That would drag right down the side of the truck, and no paint protection film is going to save you from that. So there's the river I was talking about, one that we crisscrossed over as we came down the switchback. Dumps right out on the lake next to us. It's definitely ripping pretty good with all this rain that we're getting. So there you go, you guys get to see this trail from the other angle, going back up. We're gonna head back up under the clouds, and it's gonna get foggy again, I'm sure. But I don't know if you guys can see, just down through the trees, we can still see a little bit more of the river there. So I'm still in 4 low, which is why you can hear the RPMs creeping up so high. That's why I switch it to 4 high anytime I need to get a little bit of speed going. You just really can't travel very fast in 4 low. And I don't think it's too good for the transfer case anyways. Sean did a good job sneaking around this tree, but he doesn't have an awning on the side, so I went a little bit higher. I'm just going to close my eyes and hope nothing hits it.
Perfect.
There we go. We're through.
Yeah, it's like learning to drive a whole different Jeep now.
Yeah, you're not used to Gladiator lengths anymore, eh?
That and being so high and now having an awning on the side.
Right.
Yeah, it really is a different experience driving this giant truck. My Wrangler was only on 37s, so it was a little lower to the ground. I didn't have it lifted up quite as high. I definitely feel being up higher in this truck. It's a different experience, and not only is your center of gravity higher, so you get a little bit more tippy, but you're also higher, so you just feel like you're tipping over even more. It's definitely given me a lot of perspective of how I would build another Jeep, which I'm sure we'll do at some point in the future. This is another thing. With the Gladiators, you can't quite make the same tight turns. Just that longer wheelbase makes just enough of a difference. In my JK, I could just crawl right around this corner, no problem. It's nice and short. I think I'll try to make this corner without having to do a multi-point turn. That's definitely another reason why I needed the Hydro Assist steering, because navigating these tight trails and doing these tight turns, and anytime you had to do a multi-point turn, it was an absolute slog to try to turn the wheel. Essentially, when you're aired down, I couldn't turn the wheel unless I was moving, and when you're trying to navigate a tight switchback, for instance, it's really sketchy to have to turn the wheel while you're moving. It's nice to be able to set your wheels up and then start moving. Here you can see what I'm talking about. There's all this large crushed gravel all along this part of the trail. You can see little bits of it as we go. So I don't know where this trail came from. Maybe they used it to do replanting down here. That's why we have all these planted trees. I don't know. If anybody in the comment knows this area and why this trail is here and what happened to all these trees and whether or not replanted, let me know. I'd be interested. And I do read all the comments, so if you guys have any questions or want to know anything about our adventures or trucks or my gear or Jeeps, I'll do my best to answer them. I try to read all the comments and reply to all the questions. Just getting a face full of brush there. Always feels faster when we're returning up a trail rather than progressing it down it. Seems like we've made our way up here really quick. But this is what a lot of off-roading in BC is like. There are some few specific trails you can get on that have a bunch of boulders and rock crawling. And there's trails like the Whipsaw Trail that you can go and adventure and has obstacles that you can go up, or you can take the bypasses if you don't want to try them. But a lot of off-roading in BC is like this. It's just old exploration roads or forestry roads and heading to lakes or mountains or cool camping spots on rivers. There's not a lot of rock crawling like down in Moab or down in some of the trails in California. Nothing like the Rubicon up here at all. A lot of people say running 40-inch tires is probably overkill, and I would tend to agree with most of them, but you know, it's always nice to have a little bit more than you need, because we tend to go to some pretty extreme and crazy places, and it's nice to be a bit over-geared in case you get into something sticky, and that extra bit of tire height or lift that you get from the tires or lift on your truck just manages to get you over what you need to be getting over. But 99% of the places we go, you could probably do it on 37s, and I'd say 90% of the places we go, you could probably do it on a stock Rubicon with 35s and an extreme recon package. But here we are. We found ourselves at the boulders that we came in on, and we're gonna try to make our way out. And Sean is gonna have a little trouble here. I'm gonna have to end up getting out and spotting him here in a second. So let's just see how he does on his own and carry on. So I think the line that we should have taken was a little bit more to the right and then cut into the driver's side of the trail, but Sean was a little bit too centered. You can see his left driver's side tire getting hung up on that boulder.
You're really hooked on a boulder, your back left tire. Maybe turn driver's back up a bit.
Now, what I didn't know is on his front passenger side,
Yeah, now turn passenger and go forward.
there's a huge rock that he's climbing up on, and it's really getting him kind of twisted up here.
Okay, now back drivers again and back up a bit more.
This is why it's hard to spot from being behind.
Yeah, right there now, hard passenger, and then forward. Should get you over that little rock.
Now, if I thought Sean was getting into some real serious trouble, I'd just get out right away, but thought I'd give him a little bit of guidance.
I'm gonna hop out from the front and have a look.
Yeah. He's gonna take another crack at it before I get up to the front, though. Watch his front tire here. Whoa. Way in the air, guys.
Whoa, that,
You had it.
well, my driver's tire was also like in the air.
Oh, yeah, I got it on video.
Yeah, we definitely got it on video. At this point, just take a break and get your spotter out and have another look. Things are so much more clear when you're outside of the
I'm not
vehicle.
sure this is gonna work out. I might need you to get in the front and just see what's gonna happen.
Yeah, you
Yeah, on my way.
just can't see from following behind and in the driver's seat. This is why spotters are always useful. And I'll never have an issue jumping out and helping somebody because I get a lot of help myself, but I just happen to be in a river at the moment, so it's a little bit more difficult. Wet and slippery. All these rocks are mossy and slick, so gotta be careful climbing up here.
This is a situation.
It feels really tippy when I go forward, so I just wanted to make it over that
Sean
way.
is really off camber, so see, this is what I couldn't see from the back, where his passenger side was hiked up on the side of a ledge there. So
Can you kill the lights?
Sean's lights are just beaming me in the face. I can't see anything. That's better. So we'll see which way Sean wants to go before we give him some advice.
I think if you go, do you want to keep going forward or do you want to back up and correct? Okay, if you go passenger and back up.
It's always good to just take a few seconds and assess the situation. Think about what would happen if you turn your wheels,
Yeah.
how your vehicle's going to react,
going.
and then
No,
start
keep
giving
going.
some advice.
Okay. You're gonna start coming down, so keep going backwards. Backwards.
So I'm trying to get Sean in a position where he can hook around that rock on his rear driver's side.
Okay.
And not climb this outcropping here on the passenger side. There we go. No problem for the trail destroyer.
Yeah, it's just, I think I'll have to come high and cut in, like, yeah, if you want to watch me. Okay.
Now I've got the line, so it should be easy. I'm going to use my lockers. A lot of people try to get through stuff open and not using their lockers for the, I don't know what you're trying to prove, but I got the tools. I might as well use them. It just means less likely of breaking something on my truck. Alright, we'll make our way back down through this little river, and hop back in the truck and see how the Demonator does coming up through this little boulder field. It is super slippery though. I'm being real careful not to end up on my butt here. Thankfully the boots I have are quite waterproof and have really good grip on the bottom of them. I'm really enjoying these boots that I got. They're from a promo I did last year from a company called Nordiv 8. They're super cheap on Amazon and they haven't let me down on all my adventures over the last year and a half. It's a struggle getting in the truck on that weird angle in the rain in a river.
Okay.
Let's go. We're gonna throw some lockers on. I just put the rear ones on to get started. If you put your front ones on, it really limits your ability to turn because now your front tires need to both turn at the same rate. So when one needs to turn a little bit slower than the other, having those lockers on makes navigating a little bit more difficult. So I always like to start with my rear lockers, see if I can get over what I need to with that, and then get to a point where I fail, put my front lockers on, get through what I need, and turn the front lockers off again so I get steering. So Sean's just setting me up to go through that line that we walked him through. And my back's going to get a little bit hung up on that boulder. Even with the rear lockers on, I can't quite get enough traction, so we're going to flip the front lockers here in a second. And that should give us just enough traction to pull the Jeep over rather than push the Jeep from the rear. What a difference throwing the lockers on makes. You see, didn't have to give it any throttle, it just got up and crawled. I'm going to close my window so I don't get a face full of branches as I pass through. You see we're quite off camber here once again. But we'll walk right out. Demonator did awesome. Alright guys, we're back up at the main road. I'm just going to skip over the whole ascent up from the lake. You guys have already seen most of that trail and really wasn't anything new to show you guys. And we're pulling back up on the main road. You can see we're back where the snow is because we came up a little bit in elevation. And we can get back in 2-wheel drive or 4-high depending on what we're doing and rip it a little bit on this FSR. It looks like Sean forgot to pull out of 4-low, so he had to stop. Now, if you guys don't know about Jeeps, you can go into 4-high while you're driving, but to go into 4-low, you need to come to a complete stop and put your vehicle in neutral, and then you can shift into 4-low. Same with coming out of 4-low, you gotta stop, put it into neutral, and then you can shift out of it. But to go between 2-high and 4-high, you can just shift on the fly. But we're back in the clouds once again. Visibility is reduced, and we've got some slick, wet, slippery, muddy snow all over the place here. See over in the corner, Onyx is showing we've gone about 30 kilometers today, which isn't very far. And if you're wondering about my fuel economy, we're getting close to using up a quarter of a tank of fuel, but we definitely went through a lot more fuel descending down to the lake like that, driving slow and then coming back up. It just really kicks the RPMs up when you're in 4-low, and well, more RPMs, burn more fuel. Yeah, it really seems like we're getting a lot more snow on the trail as we progress along here. And what I didn't know at the time is we're going to get into quite a bit more snow. Whenever I'm climbing uphill, the supercharger is really working. You can see my traction light kicking on there. I keep my traction control on. It doesn't do a lot when you've replaced the 200 horsepower or whatever it is engine with an 800 horsepower engine, but it does a little bit, and at least lets you know when the back end's sliding. I always wonder, people that built this Demon engine, if they knew where its life was going to end up, behind the truck bombing through forestry roads and in the mountains in British Columbia, and not some muscle car build using a crate engine. Back end slide again. We're going to throw this in 4 high, get a little bit extra traction because my back end is kicking out constantly, and I don't want to lose the back end or lose traction coming through here. But as you see, I just switched it into 4 high on the fly, no big deal. Away we go. Seems like the snow is accumulating, or had accumulated a little bit more in this section. There's no snow coming down. It still looks like, I think it's 4 or 5 degrees. We never really got much below 3 or 4 degrees Celsius for this whole trip. So we weren't getting any fresh snow, but you never know, because you can be driving along at 4 degrees where we are, and we haven't even got to the mountain pass yet, which is going to go up quite a bit in elevation. So you could lose that temperature real quick. And when we were here last time, there was a ton of snow on the mountain pass, but it was awesome. We just got to bomb through fresh powder in the morning. Nobody had hit the trail yet. It was kind of funny because we were coming down and out of the trail at the air up spot, and there's a whole group of Jeeps sitting there airing down, getting ready to go, and they were expecting to hit the fresh powder first thing in the morning. Sean and I come bombing down the side of the trail, down the mountain, plowing snow everywhere, and nope, we got the fresh trail. And they were wondering what the heck, what happened. And we're like, oh yeah, we camped out there last night, so we got an early start before anybody else could get into the snow. But I'm sure they found some if they went down a different fork in these FSRs. There's tons of snow to explore. But this is the opposite. None of this fluffy, powdery snow. This is slushy, wet, slippery garbage from a previous snowfall that's been rained all over. It's been a really warm winter here in BC. Barely saw any snow all winter. Not that we get a ton of snow in the lower mainland and over on Vancouver Island where I am, but it seems like it was an exceptionally warm winter. If you guys saw the camping video that I was out with Dustin camping a few weeks ago, or actually back in December, it was the start of December, and we were hanging around a campfire just in light hoodies in the evening, and it was maybe 7 or 8 degrees Celsius out. It was absolutely beautiful. There was no rain, clear skies, and exceptionally warm for December. There's some more clear cut, probably some fire burned area in there, but everything's frozen. So it was definitely below zero around here not too long ago before we were here. I'm guessing this snow was probably within the week or so that we were up here. So some of the lakes were frozen on the way in. There were ponds, there's some small ponds, and that water that we just passed was all frozen. So can't be that warm for that long if that stuff's still frozen. So we're slowly climbing in elevation as we go, and it seems like there's more and more snow on the trail. You can see it just kicking up. Sean's using the Toyo MTs. He's got the 40-inch tires, as I mentioned before, and I've got the Nitto trail grapplers.
Is this the pass, or is it coming up still?
No, this isn't the pass yet. There's a fork.
Yeah, I couldn't quite remember where we were.
I'm gonna jump out when there's lots of snow somewhere and just get us still.
Got to get pictures of the Jeep in the snow. But anyways, as I was saying, I've got trail grapplers on mine from Nitto. My tires are fairly fresh. I've only got about 10 or 12,000 kilometers on them, where Sean's got probably, I think he said 30,000 K on his. So he's wearing them down a little bit. He's not going to have quite as sharp edges on them, and he's got a little less traction. You'll see later on he goes for a little spin off the side of the trail. But I seem to be doing fine. Both of these tires do okay. I don't think that mud trains do as good as all trains in the snow. I think all trains have better tread patterns and siping for snow. John's got the, I think it's the Terra grapplers on his 4Runner, and they're an all-terrain hybrid tire, so they've got more of like a mud terrain sidewall with an all-terrain tread pattern. They do really good in the snow. And if I was just making a snow wheeling rig, I would probably go for some large all-terrain tires and then air them down nice and low, and I think that's going to give you the best traction. And no, we almost never, I'm not going to say almost, we never bring tire chains. People ask all the time about chains, and I think chains are good when it's icy or you've got really hard snow, but when the snow's deep or it compacts down, it's usually better to try to float through it. You want a big tire, a wide tire, air it down nice and low and try to float through it. Putting chains on usually just digs you down and into it, and then you just get high centered on your diff and suspension and underbelly. This is definitely a cool drive out here, and really appreciate that there's some snow, because it just makes the drive that much more interesting. I remember this curve. I shot a video coming through here last time when we got that 2.5 feet of snow overnight, and I had the EcoDiesel Wrangler out, and I was just plowing along. There was snow just barreling over the sides and onto the hood and everything. It was super awesome, and just kind of round that corner coming out. It was a sunny morning after all the snowfall. I think there's probably a video on my Instagram somewhere. If you guys aren't following me, I post all kinds of stuff between videos on my Instagram, just daily life stuff, projects I'm working on, the Jeeps, new updates. If you want to see the new car I got, there's a bunch of posts on there as well, because I did get rid of one of the Jeeps. So if you want to find out which one I got rid of and what I replaced it with, go check me out over on Instagram. You can find me at Casey250. There's probably a link up in the top of the YouTube page as well, and down in my description usually there's a link to my Instagram. But if you search for Casey250 on Instagram, you'll find me, and go check out Sean too. His is the Story Till Now on Instagram.
This is crazy snowy up here.
Yeah, and this is the bottom. So, I mean, we're going to get into some stuff here. It's pretty slippery.
Yeah, it's real greasy because of all the water.
So the turn we just made to the left is the route we're going to be taking into the lake, which puts us on track to go through this mountain pass up ahead here. And that's where the snow is going to get a little bit deeper. We've got a few narrow sections. We've got to cross a few rivers and streams along the way. That's what that sign was back there. There's a bunch of single roadways, so if there was traffic, we'd have to yield to it, but we're just bombing along, and we're not going to worry about that today because there's nobody out here on a Friday afternoon. Looks like Sean's truck's getting a little squirrely. Oh, so is mine. We're in 4 high, so we're probably spinning all 4 tires pretty good. But the conditions are changing quite quickly as we pick up some elevation. This is where we had a really hard time. I think it was 3 years ago we came up here. Not the year that we had the snowstorm, but the year we came out here with all the washouts. There was a ton of snow, and we had to just crawl our way through here. The snow wasn't powdery enough for us to plow through it, so if you sunk down, your diff got stuck in it. So basically the strategy was to go really slow and sit on top of the snow, which is a strategy we use quite often in some of the snow.
Remember when we came up here and you had a supercharged engine? Now I have a supercharged engine.
Yeah.
Which is a strategy we use in the snow, is to stay on top of it and just crawl
You need to
along.
slide off the road.
Yeah, my traction control keeps reminding me.
But
I turned mine off.
what I was
Traction control
what I was talking about there with Sean was he had the supercharged 3.6 liter in the Trail Wrecker, which was the truck before this one, which has since been sold and off to a new home. And now Sean has the AMW 4x4 conversion in there as well, but he's got the, it's a 426. It's a stroke 392. He's got about 606 horsepower. Both of us are extremely happy with our America's Most Wanted 4x4 conversions, and if you guys are looking to put in V8 in one of your Jeeps, whether a Gladiator or a JL or even a JK, give them a shout. There's a link down in the description of this video if you want to check them out, and you can find out more about their turnkey conversions. Look at this snow. It's really, really picking up as we go. Changed from a little bit of white to everything everywhere we look is super white and snowy. We're not really cutting through the snow to the trail now, so we're riding on compacted snow and slushy snow all around us. And it is really, really slick. And the Demonator with its 800 horsepower will pick the tires up and spin them in the best of times, and yeah, it gets a little squirrely here in the snow, but a lot of fun. Now, I'm not too worried about us getting stuck or anything like that. In the back of the truck, I've got all my recovery gear. So we've got kinetic ropes, we've got tow straps, shackles, I've got traction boards, shovels. I pretty much keep everything in the truck at all times to be always prepared, because really never know what we're going to run into.
12-20 meters elevation, still 2 degrees, but it looks like the snow's starting to get or the rain's starting to get a little heavier, like snow like. So I wonder if we get a little higher, if it's going to turn to snow.
Yeah, so we climbed 1,200 meters there in a very short period of time. Only one way to find out. 1,200 meters is probably about 3,600 feet or so. So we went from 0 to 3,600 in only a few minutes. And as Sean mentioned, it did drop down. You can see on my dash there, it's 2 degrees. So we lost about 3 or 4 degrees there in that 1,200 meters. So 3 degrees Celsius, I think, is probably about, 38 degrees or so?
I forgot I stopped my engine when we were at the lake and restarted it, so my traction control was on. That's why I couldn't do anything.
Yeah, sure, Sean. Blame the traction control.
That's better.
Now he's ripping it and spinning the tires. You can see the snow just rooster tailing off the back of his truck. I'm sure my truck is doing the same, but Sean's got way less fender coverage on his truck. He's got the custom fenders from Metal Cloak on there, which exposes more of the tire, and they're more durable than the plastic fenders. But at the same time, it kicks up a whole lot more snow. And rain, for that matter. This is pretty good. I can't complain about these snowy conditions. There's enough snow to make it fun and interesting and give you guys a bit of a show, but not enough that it's stopping us from getting anywhere or slowing us way down. But we've still got a little bit more elevation to go before we hit the summit on this pass, so we'll see what the weather's like. Now, I usually don't post my routes or anything like that online. I'm sure you guys can figure this out by searching for Chehalis Lake. But if you are looking for a GPS application for mapping and tracking where you're going, I do have a link down in my description for Onyx Off-Road. They're a huge supporter of both Sean and I and tons of other creators out there getting out there and making content for you guys. They are a huge supporter of the off-road community. And check them out. There's a discount code as well if you want to save a few bucks, if you want to subscribe to their premium tiers. But you can download the app for free, and if you want to save a few bucks, you can use that code. But huge thanks to Onyx for being such an awesome supporter of what we do. And Sean just slid off the road.
Oops.
I'm going to go a little more to the left because I don't want to get sucked into that rut and into the ditch. Alright, let's hop out and get a couple shots of the Jeep in the snow. You guys can get a bit of a better look at what's going on. I think we're pretty close to where the summit is. I think it might actually be snowing right now. I didn't actually notice that when we were out, but on the camera it looks like that rain may have turned to snow, so there you go. What do you guys think of the Demonator? I was thinking about adding a roof rack. I don't know if I need any more lights, but what do you guys think?
It's wet.
I think it looks pretty good like that. I like that it still has the truck lines, and then we got the cap and the rooftop tent on the back. I think if I add a roof rack, it might blend it all together too much, but let me know down in the comments what you guys think. back on the trail we go. We're going to make our descent down to the lake here fairly soon. See if there's any more snow as we go, though. So climbing up the hill in the snow is one thing. You gotta get traction to get up there, but at least if something happens, you're going uphill and you're not gonna slide off. Descending in the snow, well, now you got gravity working against you, and it can always be a little bit more sketchy, so you gotta be pretty careful. Thankfully, the further down you descend, the less snow there is. Usually.
Don't go that way.
Sean's steering into a ditch again here. Always fun navigating in the snow. Some of these ruts can just suck you right off the trail if you're not very careful. So you gotta kind of put one tire outside of the rut. And I make it look easy because I'm following Sean, but if you're the one leading and you're following the tracks, sometimes they just grab you and pull you right off the trail. It looks like Sean is having a little bit more of a traction issue with his slightly more worn Toyo MTs than my trail grapplers from Nitto. I didn't have really any traction issues other than when I put my foot down too far. You see, I've got the wheel turned almost completely left to try to stay out of that track because it's trying to pull me off to the right hand side. Snow is a real fickle thing to be driving in. And no, more horsepower does not help you at all in the snow. But like I said before, it's pretty fun. Now this pass is absolutely beautiful. I wish that there wasn't so much low-lying clouds and fog, and I could show you guys a little bit more around us, because there are some big mountain peaks that are just behind the cloud line and the fog in front of us. I think there's some shots of it from the last time we came out here, if you guys go dig up that video. But straight through in front of us are huge mountains, and they're probably completely snow-covered. With all the snow that we have on the trail, that's what my expectations would be. But it is what it is. This trip, we get lots of rain. If you want to see how we did with camping in the rain, I'm not going to put any of that in this video. Go look at the last video that I uploaded before this video. That's the whole experience we had. How did our gear do? How much rain did we get? Sean brought a new pop-up canopy for us to hang out in the rain, so I had some feedback about that, as well as the alley cab shadow awning that's on the side of my truck, how that did in the rain. If you guys are into gear and reviews and that kind of stuff, check out that video. So a lot of the videos that I post on the channel are about building my Jeep and testing out new gear, new products that I find, and I try to go camping and out on adventures around once a month. A little less during the summer because it's fire season, so a lot of places are closed off or smoky and we can't have campfires and that kind of stuff, so I don't get out as much. But from September to May, I try to get out once a month. So every time I go out, I make a video, and if you guys want to check that out, make sure to subscribe, turn on the notifications, and come along on some of the adventures, learn about some of the gear, learn about how I'm building my Jeep and different mods. And I'm getting really close to 100,000 subscribers, guys. We're almost at 85,000. I've been at this for several years now, and appreciate everybody that's watched all the videos. We've logged over 15 million views on the channel, and I think one day we'll get to 100,000 subscribers and get that plaque, and with your support, we can do it. So appreciate it if you just take a quick second, hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything, and I'm sure you'll find some future videos that you'll enjoy if you're enjoying this video, as well as some of the past 500 videos that I've uploaded on the channel. No joke, almost 500 videos. Sean just slipping and sliding as we go. Usually I see him kicking up huge water rooster tails with his truck. It's pretty cool to see the snow just kicking up like that.
So squirrely, eh?
Yeah, it's so greasy.
If you guys ever get a chance to get out and do some snow wheeling, highly recommend it. Just make sure you bring some recovery gear because it's pretty easy to get hung up in the snow, but it's my favorite time to get out on the trail. Snow is awesome. It's a little more fun to play in. I think everything just looks really pretty when you're out here and it's covered in snow. It just seems more peaceful and relaxing. Didn't get much of a chance to do any snow camping this year. The couple times I went out, it was cold, but there was no snow. Went out in January on Vancouver Island, and we found a really nice spot above an old mine in the mountains. Beautiful views. It was freezing cold. It was
1,500 meters and it's still 2 degrees.
10 below Celsius out. It was just absolutely chilling, but no snow, just completely clear skies. Sean just mentioned there we hit 1,500 meters, so
I wonder if there'll be snow overnight.
1,500 meters, about 4,500 feet or so.
Doesn't look like there's been any fresh. These tracks look days old.
This is the deepest snow that we came across on this pass. You can see it plowing over the sides of the front of the Jeep there just a second ago as I went a little to the left.
I mean, that'd be fantastic, but the forecast definitely does not call for it.
We definitely had our fingers crossed that we'd get snow overnight, but we didn't see anything. It was just rain, and there's way less snow coming out of here the next day. I didn't really film any of it. It wasn't that interesting. But it was a pretty easy departure out the next day. Not like a couple years ago when we couldn't even find our way back to the trail from the beach on the camp site that we're staying at. There was so much snow we couldn't navigate anywhere. We were using the drone to see where the breaks in the trees were so we could get out. It was kind of like a maze. It seems kind of silly when you're watching the video and not there in person, but when you're there driving and you can't see anything, it can be hard to find where your route was. And as good as GPS is, there's still a several meter variance that it can have. So if you're trying to find a tight little turn and corner or something like that to get out of where you are and everything's white and covered in snow, GPS doesn't help all that much. Some old equipment for building roads and culverts that we just passed. I'll show you guys in a little bit where the washout was from a few years ago, because you can't even tell there was a washout. But they do bring maintenance equipment up here and repair the road. I think there was a huge washout just up here, not the one I was just talking about, but another one on the side of the ridge line that we're coming up to. Once again, big fire came through this area, wiped out all the trees and made the ground unstable, and then we get the huge rainstorms after the summer. So we get the fires in the summer and then the rainstorms in the fall and the winter.
A lot of crab walking going on.
And it washes away the sides of the mountains, and that's where the roads are.
Yeah, I might need to go 4 low and put my lockers on.
Should be able to flip your rears on in 4 high.
Sometimes the computer glitches out and is like, no, you have to be in 4 low.
Ah, I gotcha.
So from the factory, you can't go in, but you can't put your lockers on when you're in 4 high. But we run Taser JLs in here. Helps us with some other mods with the engine conversions as well. But one of the features of the Taser JL is that you can put your lockers on in 4 high, so you can just put your rear lockers on. Super helpful in the snow or in the sand if you're bombing around in the dunes or the desert. But because they're kind of hacking the way that the system works, you can have some issues with it. And depending on what firmware the Taser JL is at and what version your truck is at, and just how your truck feels for the day, you may not be able to get your lockers turned on in 4 high. So Sean went into 4 low so he could be assured they turn on. But I think Sean is also running electric lockers. So he's going to have the Jeep system have a little bit more control over that. I'm running AirB air lockers, and even though I'm using a factory locker switch, I actually have it wired into a Z Automotive switch module, so it's not actually using anything from the factory. So I can flip my lockers on whenever I want. So we've definitely lost a little bit of pace. We're just kind of crawling along. You can see the speedo. We're doing about 10, 15 kilometers an hour. Sean's really trying to keep traction on his truck. I think he might want to think about pick up a fresh set of tires before next winter.
So fun.
Yeah, this was an unexpected surprise.
Yeah, with the off-road mud trains, you don't want to wear them down all the way. I swapped my last set out on the JL after about 40,000 kilometers, which put them about...
Chef John's going to be super jealous because we went camping a couple of weeks ago. He wanted some snow, and all we got is really cold.
Yeah, well, I think all we're going to get is really rain.
It put them about 50% tread after all that, and they were fine on the highway, but you really start to notice a difference when you're in the mud and slippery stuff like
Yeah,
snow.
but we got some snow wheeling in.
This would be going a lot better if I was at like 10 psi.
Airing down also makes a huge difference. I mentioned I'm at 15 psi, which I think is pretty good.
Your tires getting worn down? Because I'm not really finding too much problem.
Well, what you're done to, I'm at 15.
I'd say I'm at 15 average.
But yeah, you can drop the tires down to 5 psi if you've got bead locks, or you've got some of those the wheels with the bead grip on them from Method. Drop them down nice and low, and when you air your tires down super low, it makes them expand and bulge out, so you get a larger contact patch, and then you get better traction. And the snow, that can help you stay on top of the snow or give you better traction. So airing down is a great way to improve your capabilities in the snow and slick conditions.
Snowy peaks are nice, though.
You guys can just get a bit of a glimpse of some of the peaks off in the distance, but it's definitely not the best days to give you guys the views on this trail. Clouds are too low. If it was sunny, you guys would see everything all around us and be absolutely stunning. You get a little glimpse of it off in the distance, but it's really hard to see on camera through the fog. So we're starting our descent now and coming downhill. Expect the temperatures will warm up a little bit and the snow's going to thin out, but we don't really have far to go once we make the descent. We're going to cross that old washout that I was telling you guys about, and I'll show you guys just how great a job of the company that did it, that was maintaining it and fixing it. And then we're pretty much going to pull up to the trail and right out to the beach, and we'll pull onto the beach to finish off this video.
Got to keep at least one hand on the wheel.
Shauna's having a little trouble sliding off the trail today. It's all good though. A lot of fun. No big deal. see over Onyx. I've traveled about 41 kilometers. It's the big number that's ticking up in the bottom left-hand corner if you look at my phone on the right. Not too far, and I've used a third of a tank of fuel. Between the 4-load climbing up the rocks and going down that trail, and then burn all the fuel going uphill into this pass. Demon definitely likes to drink its gasoline. But it's all downhill from there, so we'll save a little bit of fuel, but I'm not really worried. We've got plenty of fuel to get in and out on this trip, and I always keep a jerry can in the back of the truck just in case. Some of these longer trips, I do bring a couple of jerry cans. I know Sean usually likes to roll around with 3 or 4 jerry cans. I'm going to be careful going through this part. You don't want to slide off to the left through here. That would be a bad day, sliding off the edge. Yeah, I was trying to see if I could see some of these mountains off in the distance and grab my phone and get a shot for you guys with the zoom lenses, but you can just see the outlines of some of the mountains, but I don't think the camera's doing a very good job of picking them up while we're driving. So this was one of the areas that Sean said washed all out, and you can see there's all the burnt trees once again, and this road looks fairly newly rebuilt. That whole side had been washed out at some point in the recent past. Once again, the trees just can't maintain the slope sides when they've been burnt, and then the rain comes and knocks everything out. The crews have put a lot of time maintaining this section of the pass and keeping this road accessible, so huge thanks to whatever workers are out here fixing these roads up and keeping them passable, and people like us can come out here in the winter and enjoy this, and tons of people can come out here in the summer and enjoy the beautiful lake.
Sign said these trees are all fire damaged, no stopping. It's crazy.
Yeah, they're recommending not to stop because
Yeah, there was a pretty big fire in here, I don't know, last year or the year before.
they don't want you to slide off the road, or there's a lot of rocks that start falling down too and the slopes become unstable. But imagine what this fire was ripping through here, all these trees.
Right for landslides.
This place would have been absolutely wild with the fire ripping through here. So it seems like the snow's thinning out. We're dropping elevation pretty quick. There's a little slide there. Sometimes it's just little ones like that. Sometimes it's big rocks that come tumbling down.
Yeah, this looks like it's been rebuilt at some point.
Sometimes the whole side of the mountain just comes down.
Yeah, this is all slid out.
This would have been a massive slide. So a lot of this rock looks fairly fresh or fresher. So they've spent some time rebuilding this road. But all these trees, none of them have any pine needles or leaves on them. They were all scorched by the fire. So crazy. So we're making our way down. We're going to be a little more careful because that slick, slippery snow can send you off the side if you're not careful. So I want to keep my speed down, keep my distance from Sean, and just always be kind of checking the conditions and seeing how much traction I have, checking my brakes, make sure I'm not sliding too far if I need to stop. But it won't be long before the tires are cut through this snow as it thins out, and they'll be hitting the gravel and dirt. We'll have pretty good traction as we come down. Beautiful spot though. The views up here are awesome. when we drove out the next day, there was no clouds. It was pretty sunny, at least for a good section of it, until we got back towards the lake, and it was beautiful. All the views were really nice. So this is the one little switchback. You got to be careful. You got to make this left-hander. You don't want too much speed coming down there when it's slick and slippery. So we make the final descent to the river, and then we're gonna make the descent into the lake.
I love coming out to this lake in the winter. It's so pretty.
Yeah, it's probably my favorite place to camp.
Absolutely. This is one of my top places that we can go camping. It's nice because it's accessible. It's only a couple hours from the Vancouver area. Bit of a pain for me because I got to hop a ferry and come over, but in the wintertime, it's super quiet out here. And as you'll see when we get on the beach at the lake, it's pretty awesome. The one thing with the snow, you see Sean's truck just thumping up and down. When there's snow on the trail, you can't see the potholes, and so you can be chugging along, and then all of a sudden, boom, massive pothole in the trail. And when the snow is soft and slushy like that, it doesn't stop you from falling in it. You just slam down on it. Thankfully, all my gear back in the back of the truck is tied down and fairly secured, so it shouldn't be flying everywhere. If you look on Onyx, you can see that we double backed. Where we are now is just directly below where we were a few minutes ago. It's kinda hard to get a bit of a glimpse, but you can see a little bit of where we're heading, where we were. So we weave our way in and out of these trees and shelf roads and rocks and boulders. It's quite the little adventure just to come out camping for a night. But half the fun of going camping is the adventure getting there and doing some off-road and driving the trucks.
Apparently there was an earthquake. I'm getting text messages from people asking me if I felt the earthquake.
Don't feel much in the truck.
So we've been having quite a few earthquakes here on the West Coast the last couple weeks. We had one when we were out off-roading, and we had one 2 nights ago from when I was editing this video. Hope that's not a sign that we get some major earthquakes coming, but I seem to recall that you want a bunch of little earthquakes, and that means it's relieving the pressure on the tectonic plates.
Any indication of the size?
No, I haven't looked into it yet.
But right where we are is pretty prone to earthquakes. So much so that most of the house insurance providers where I live won't give you earthquake insurance anymore. And we haven't even had any major earthquakes in the last long time.
Magnitude 5 earthquake hits near Seashell.
Is that up Haida Gwaii?
Seashell isn't that Vancouver Island? Or is that's Sunshine Coast? Oh wow, there's like cracked roads and stuff.
Oh, I'll have to check in with the girls here. Your Starlink up?
Yeah.
Sean runs Starlink in his truck. I've been thinking about getting Starlink because I've been going out more and more, and it's handy to be able to check in with the family when I'm out. As well, I can post on Instagram and update people with what we're doing. So once again, go check out my Instagram at KC250. But maybe there's the other side of things. It's kind of nice to be disconnected and not on social media when you're out camping. But Sean spends way more time than I do out on the road, so Starlink's pretty much an essential for him.
This is where that big washout was. They've done a pretty good job of shoring it up now, I think.
moly, yeah, it's like a bridge they built here compared to that one year.
Yeah, the first year we came down here, he basically had to drop in this ledge that was about 5 feet high because it washed out this entire road. This creek that's on the side here was basically running through the middle of the road, but they've created a bridge with a pass through for the river now, and hopefully it's holding up. Seems like it. It's been a few years since that was washed out, but you couldn't just drive through there at all. You had to
Some sort of large tracks in the snow going up the hill.
navigate your way through there. Speaking of animals, I saw some big tracks. I don't know, maybe they were
Bigfoot.
cougar tracks. Sean thinks they might have been Bigfoot tracks, but I don't see a lot of wildlife when we're out. I get that question a lot. You know, what do you see when you're out there?
Are we going down that road again?
And
The left fork.
I have seen,
No, the Bigfoot road.
Oh. I don't think so.
I've seen only a handful of animals when I'm out. Seen a few black bears. Paul and I think we saw a cougar stalking us when we were scouting a trail that was covered in snow, which we promptly ran back to the trucks afterwards. I've seen elk, but I've never seen any grizzly bears. Never actually seen a cougar other than the one we think we saw. And I've never really had any close encounters with any wildlife. There's a lot of wolves on the island, especially towards the northern part of the island, so you have to be careful when you're out there. But I've never had any encounters that really concern me, thankfully. I think the closest call I ever had was when we were down in Oregon and we were in the Wahi area, and I was walking out to a cliff edge over a river to have a look in the morning, and not 6 feet to my left was a giant rattlesnake, and I heard it and freaked out and ran away. But thankfully nothing happened there, because I don't know what would happen if I got a rattlesnake bite out in the middle of nowhere. It wasn't really something I was even thinking about, because we don't have any poisonous snakes here on Vancouver Island, and I think they're only in a few areas in the interior during the summer, and most of the time we're out in weather like this and the winter season and fall season, so those animals aren't around anywhere. And I wasn't even thinking about it at all, but apparently it's very common for the rattlesnakes to be basking on the rocks on sides of cliffs that are southern facing in the morning, getting warm. So learned my lesson there, but that was probably the scariest situation. Wasn't anything too crazy, but as far as animal encounters go, pretty minimal. So we're just making our way down the last stretch. Not sure if you can see on my map here, but you can start to see on the bottom it's opening up towards the lake as we travel a little bit further down. And we're going to pop out here in just a minute. Now there's two ways that you can go into this lake. We went in the first entrance. You can go a little bit further, which crosses over a bridge that goes over the river that ends up opening up to the lake. But that side doesn't have as good campsites, and the river's pretty cut through the beach and almost non-traversable right now. So we went up this side. This is going to give us the best spot to pull up on the beach, which
The river's practically dry.
the river's dry on this side, but not the far side, as we found out later.
That's impressive. Wow.
It's pretty cool to see this beach completely covered in snow, but you wouldn't believe it. We had so much rain all evening and overnight, almost all of the snow was gone in the morning.
Well, we get some nice snow camping thumbnails at least.
All about the thumbnails, guys. Big old Gladiator. I gotta do a multi-point turn to get around this. Really wish Jeep would put a washer on the rear camera. I know they put cameras on the fronts of some of the Jeeps. You can order it and you can get a washer with it, but my rear is always full of stuff and I have to get out and wipe it off. So you can see on the map on my dash the mouth of the river and the lake. There it is on Onyx. You can see we're right on the, I don't think it's called a delta when a river connects to a lake. It's just the outlet into the lake. But we're right on it, and we're going to pull down here and pull right up next to the water and get a pretty awesome camp spot.
See a nice looking log at your 10 o'clock.
That was me being hopeful that we have a log that we can cut up and make a fire with, but sitting out in the rain next to fire is not any fun. And so we opted for the shelter and propane fire pit. Once it gets dark, you can't really see much anyways. And this time of year, it gets dark around 4 or 5 o'clock, especially with the clouds and overcast. It just gets darker earlier. Look at this spot. Right next to where Sean's truck is, there's a waterfall over there. See it just in the front of his truck.
You got a snow wall along the side of your Jeep. Look down.
But what I'll do is I'll post some shots after this one of the morning, and you'll get to see more of the mountains around us here. But I'm just going to pull my truck and get situated for camp, and I'll show you some of these shots here in the morning.
Covered in muck too. This is nice out here though, dude. Not gonna lie.
Some kind of animal prints all over here. Could be someone's dog though.
Someone's dog.
So here we are the next day. See just how much less snow there is on the beach and everywhere around us. That's how much rain came down overnight. But here is the view that I woke up to in the morning. Absolutely stunning. You can see the lake, some of the mountains. Just an absolutely gorgeous spot. So there you go, guys. That's pretty much this trip. If you guys enjoyed this video, let me know what you thought about it. If you have any comments or feedback for doing this type of video, should I vlog these videos like this or vlog these trips like this more in the future? It's just kind of a nice little addition to what I do when I'm out camping and doing gear reviews, but also gives you guys some of the experience. I know so many of you guys that are watching these videos will never have the opportunity to come to these places, and this is the best way I could think of to share that experience with you. So hope you guys enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun making this video and narrating it for you and giving you the overview of our whole trip. And remember, I'm trying to hit 100,000 subscribers. We only got about 15,000 more to go, and I need your help to do that. I appreciate it. If you can hit that subscribe button for free, it costs you nothing. With that said, my name's Casey, guys. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next video.